Welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about gyroscopicness as far as disc design and why it's good and bad. There's different use cases. Every shot's not the same, every disc's not the same. There's a whole concept here that I'm still working through in my brain, and I figured the best way to articulate my thoughts is to share it with y'all, see what y'all think. And to do that, I'm going to do a little bit of screen sharing. I've got a few discs here as examples. And so let's get started. Let me share my screen. So this is the profile. I just sketched up what a destroyer basically looks like. It's a good example of gyroscopicness and why it's good and what makes the destroyer so great, but also what maybe makes it not do exactly what you want. The destroyer goes basically straight from the bottom of the rim depth over here. There's a little bit of curve, maybe. It's relatively flat. So let me delete this edge for you, and I'm going to add a new one. The destroyer has the straight edge, right? So that's a lot of mass on the outer rim of the disc. Makes it super gyroscopic, goes really far. Most importantly, I think that attributes to torque resistance. So torque resistance is the ability to, when you go to throw a forehand or a backhand, if you've got a lot of wobble, you want weight on the outside of that disc distributed out there to correct that wobble. The more weight you have, the more, as soon as it comes out like this, that weight will eventually balance out, and then you'll have a smooth flight. If you don't have any mass on the rim like that, then that wobble is just going to continue, and the disc is going to not be very torque resistant. It's going to flip a lot. So let me draw basically a non-torque resistant destroyer. So you can see I didn't change the parting line height, and this is a dramatic representation. But now you can see we've got less mass on the edge, same parting line height. So your actual stability of the disc is going to be relatively the same, but because you don't have as much mass out here, because we took this in, you lose torque resistance. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because torque resistance also takes away from the fade at the end of the flight, because it's holding those rotations so much. If you take away the mass, then it's not going to hold those rotations as long. Therefore, when it gets to the end of the flight, the rotations will slow down and it will dump way harder with this rim design. So, I mean, obviously this is dramatic. I've never seen a disc like this, but let's pretend it's like this. I've seen plenty of discs like that. So now you'll have more of a dump at the end of the flight because it's going to lose rotations. And that's where a lot of companies have struggled to replicate the destroyer, because what players love about it is that it pushes, right? When it goes to fade, it pushes. It doesn't just dump and die. It continues flying even though it's on the fade section of its flight. So it's difficult to make a disc exactly like the destroyer, because you never know. You could make the disc design like this, and by the time you injection mold and everything and the plastic expands, it could be like this, it could be like this. It's really hard to replicate. Some companies have tried it. There's a happy medium, even with rim height here, or parting line height, I should say. But in my opinion, for distance, you want a disc more designed straight across, just like that. You get way more mass out here. It's going to hold those rotations better. It's going to make the disc actually a little more overstable, because if you don't have that much spin, you're not going to be able to. There's going to be a lot of weight out here, right? It's like throwing a max weight disc versus a lightweight disc. This is harder to get up in rotations. So, but if you're a pro player or really good form or whatever and have a lot of spin, this is the type of disc design that's going to make it fly farther. Now, on the contrary to that, let's say you want an overstable fairway disc like the Captain's Raptor or the Firebird. You'll see the Firebird, obviously it's not this long, but has a little bit of concave rim like this. And what that does, you lose a little bit of torque resistance, but you want overstable fairway to die at the end of the flight, right? So now you don't want it like this, because you don't want an overstable fairway that if you have any bit of wobble, the disc is just going to not be torque resistant. It's going to flip on you, right? You want to be able to trust it, but you also don't want it like the destroyer rim, because then it's going to be really pushy at the end, and you're going to be sitting there, stop, you know, you're trying to park this hole, and it's pushing too much at the end. So there's a happy medium there, right? It's super interesting. In the case of what I would say is the overstable fairway driver, you almost don't want that mass on the rim, right? Unless you're trying to make a far flying fairway driver. I'll put some images up, but that's where, to me, the thread really, really excels. So I'll try to show it to the camera, but I think pictures will probably do better. The thread has, and I'll show it here, the thread is actually more of a convex rim style. It's not flat, it almost comes this way. So there's a ton of mass on the rim of the thread when you compare it to a disc like a Thunderbird or a TL3. They have a convex or concave. They have a concave rim. I got to get that right. Hopefully you're following along. What that does though is the TL3 and the Thunderbird will actually flip up way easier. So you'll get that S-turn out of it, but you're not going to get the push because they don't have as much mass on the rim. They don't have as much gyroscopic stability. So now you may get a farther flight because now you're getting turn, and you're not going to get turn out of the thread because you don't have the rotations. This is meant to explain that one disc is not a one disc fits all sort of thing. Everybody has different rotations. Everyone has a different amount of wobble on their throws. So if you have a lot of wobble, you want more of a flat edge disc that's got torque resistance, and I call it wobble resistance, right? It'll correct your wobble. But if you've got a super smooth forehand, if you ever wonder why the pros are out there, the Discraft pros are just throwing a regular Raptor, and they go to throw it and it just goes straight and fades, and you're like, every time I throw a Raptor it flips on me. I can't trust them. They're not nearly that stable. They must have, you know, their own run that they found, and that's partially true, but it's also partially because they have no wobble. So even though the Raptor doesn't have that much torque resistance, but as long as you're smooth, it doesn't matter. Then it's just up to the parting line height, and it'll fly stable for them. I feel like I'm rambling here a bit, but to me this is super, super interesting. Another way you can see this, in my opinion, the Zeus has not been very popular. It was Discraft's kind of attempt, in my opinion, to copy the Destroyer. And if you look at them, the Zeus didn't get that straight edge. They're almost identical parting line heights. The Zeus is a little bit thinner of a rim, but identical parting line heights. The only real difference is that mass. The bottom wing there on the Zeus is slightly concave, so there's less weight, so it flips a lot. Every time I throw a Zeus and I have a lot of wobble on my forehand, it just doesn't handle it. It flips on me, and that's due to the rim. If you look at the Yeet, it's super convex. I'm gonna get this, super concave. So, and it's got this high shoulder. So what that does on the Yeet, when you go to throw it, it will actually flip quite a bit, even though it's a pretty overstable 12 speed. It'll flip quite a bit, which lets you get a little bit of distance, lets you be a little more, in my opinion, a little more accurate as far as trying to get the full flight out of it. But because there's no weight on the rim, it dies. As soon as it gets, for me, 350 feet, it dies. There's no push. Makes it really easy to be accurate, but I'm not gonna throw this Yeet as far as my Destroyer, right? That's not what the Yeet is designed for. It's overstability, right? And it's the ability to trust that you're gonna get that fade and you're gonna be able to predict where that disc is gonna land. So let me know what your thoughts on this are. I know this was kind of a rambling thing for me, but I came here to prove that gyroscopicness isn't everything. So you can see the new Q-line DD3 stuff that Discmania is making. They're talking about the gyroscopicness. That is awesome. It probably does go way farther because they've got more weight, more mass out on that rim. It's probably more torque resistant. But if you use the DD3 as more of like you're reliably overstable with a dumping finish, then you're going to get less of that. So it kind of depends what you're wanting it for. When you're shopping for discs, I would say don't look at just the flight numbers, look at that rim. And if you're a player with a lot of wobble, make sure you get a straight rim disc. If you're a player with super smooth forehand, super smooth backhand, and you're just the best form thrower ever, then parting line height is really all that you're going to care about, and comfortability. That'll be way easier to replicate. You'll have more variety. Definitely getting wobble out of your throw is key, but for me, I'm the wobble king, and so the thread has a lot of mass out there, really corrects my wobble. I can forehand the thread so well because it's got all that mass, even though it is a straight 9 speed. Very few straight 9-speeds on the market actually like forehands, and there's a reason that Chandler Kramer's bagging this. Not that he has wobble, but because he's got a super smooth forehand and a ton of spin, and all this weight on the rim of the thread just carries it forever. So it's a 9-speed. Honestly, the rim width is closer to an 8-speed, but it flies as far as a 10-speed. So get out there, throw some discs, pay attention to what the bottom of the disc looks like, pay attention to the parting line height. Let me know if this video was helpful or if all I did was ramble for 5-10 minutes, however long this video ends up being. But I hope you learned something today, and thank you for watching my videos. Check out hooligandiscs.com, follow us on Instagram, and I will see you on the next video.